Well, check.
Hi, hello everybody. Welcome.
Cheers.
How's
We've
everyone
got 2
doing?
minutes left. Yeah, everyone's alright, guys.
It's good. It's good. So we'll wait for like the next 2 minutes to start.
Yeah.
Cool. One second. Okay. Just give me 1 second, guys.
Hi everyone. Everyone's good.
Hi everybody. Thank you so much for everyone that's in attendance at the moment. So it's just 1 minute past 6, so we're just gonna go ahead and start right now. So the purpose of this event today is basically to give a setting of the political landscape that is like currently in Nigeria, as well as looking at the history of how it became to be the way it is now. I would like to thank our three guest speakers, or two guest speakers that are here today. So Mr. Sadu and Mr. Cole. So thank you so much for taking your time out to just come here and be able to speak with us today about the landscape of Nigeria, really, and to have this discussion. And so throughout the meeting, everybody's going to have a chance to ask a question. I'm going to put out some sample questions just to get us started. And then after that, we'll just continue on and kind of I'll take questions from people, read out questions. If you have questions to ask any of our guest speakers, just leave them in the comments or unmute your mic or even put up your hand. You know, there's like a raise your hand function. So we'll do that. So we're going to start. the first question is going to be in relation to the history of the political landscape in Nigeria. I'm just going to leave this as an open question to you, Miss. First, actually, could each of our guest speakers please introduce themselves? So, Mr. Sadu, could you briefly introduce yourselves to the people in the call and just kind of tell us like what you do and your relevance here?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Let me just first of all say that I'm very pleased to be among you, and also very pleased that youths are showing interest in the politics of Nigeria. This is what we have been clamoring for, some of us that have been in politics for quite a while now. So I feel very, very happy. And I think the recent events in Nigeria actually gingered youth more. If there's anything that came from the recent demonstration in Nigeria, I think it just woke up the awareness of youth, especially youth in diaspora. So I'm very grateful to be among you. Regarding myself, my name is Kolawole Saito. I'm a social worker, and I've been in politics since 80 days. Yeah, talking 1999. So we started 80, which meant later.
Sorry, your mic is a bit muffled. Is there something obstructing your mic?
Sorry, can you not hear?
Yeah, it's perfect now. Thank you.
Oh, so sorry about that. So,
no problem.
So I was saying that basically, I've been in politics since 80 days.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about how long ago? About nearly 20 years now. Mm-hmm. Currently, I am the chairman of APC in the UK. Mm-hmm. And for your state, because we have different states, and we have one national, which is called APC UK. Okay. So that's just me currently. I'm not going to waste your time. I'll wait until you start asking me questions.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. And Mr. Cole, could you please introduce yourself as well, if you're there?
Oh, yeah. I'm Abiola Jimmy Cole. Yeah, I would just describe myself as a social commentator, socio-political commentator, and I live here in UK.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So there's another speaker that is actually just I'm trying to get him the link to the event. So if we could maybe start discussing the first issue, which is the first question that I have is basically what was the the political scene after the British had left, especially in terms of like northern control. Was it a federal system? Was it a centralist system? Like who actually had control? Did every tribe in Nigeria have an equal say to the federal government at that time, straight after the British had left? So Mr. Sadu, if you could answer that firstly, and then we can move on to Mr. Cole and take on any questions in between.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. The independence, we got our independence 1st of October 1960. Even before then, we have what we call is a kind of federal system where regions were autonomous. We have the northern part, we have the western part, and we have the eastern part. They were autonomous. That is, they have a kind of constitution that gave each part that made up the whole more autonomy in terms of agriculture, in terms of education, in terms of so many other things then. So when we became independent, we in 1960, it still continued. In 1950, we had an election, and the northern part, the NPC, which is the Northern People's Congress, they have they control the government with NCNC, led by Azikwe then, and the action group led by Pa Awolowo from the Southwest became the opposition party. The reason why I said this was that it's important we realize that these three parties are ideologically inclined, and this is one of the problems we have today. The Southwest one, the action group, they were ideologically inclined, they kind of more socially to the left, whereas the NCNC and the Northern People's Congress, NPC, they were more so they formed the government at the federal level, and Southwest now became sorry,
I can't hear you anymore. Your mic has gone a bit fuzzy.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, yeah, thank you.
So it's a connection. So your question was where if they were autonomy at all after the British. Yes, they were essentially autonomy. They were essentially autonomous after the independence, but that was very short-lived. It was short-lived because of some other issues that this question, the answer to your question does not cover, which I hope we will cover it later. They were like autonomous because they were able to build their roads, build their university. They were able to collect more from the resources, natural resources. Like in the West, they had cocoa. In the North, they had granite, and in the East, they have other resources like palm kernel. So where they were derivative income from each of these states were enormous for them to use it to develop their own economy, the local economy, the regional economy. So later, this of course changed, which I hope we'll be able to talk about later. So I will say yes, they had autonomy then, essentially before the military came.
Thank you so much. So our third guest speaker has just arrived. So I'd just like him to briefly introduce himself. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you for being able to attend the event. So basically, before you came, we were just discussing the history of Nigeria before, like the political landscape of Nigeria straight after the British had left. So that's what Mr. Sadu was discussing with us. So if you could just briefly explain who you are and what you do and like what you can bring to the panelist discussion right now. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm Dr. Azukoma Uche-Osakwe, a post-colonial scholar. I wrote my PhD thesis on post-colonialism and peace processes in Nigeria. I'm an author and a writer. A Divided House, Ndigbo at a Crossroad, The Second Coming, and Conspiracy of Silence, Power, Blood, and Hypocrisy under Muhammadu Buhari, the forthcoming book. Also, I'm a public commentator and a consultant. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. We're just going to continue. Mr. Cole, could you please explain to us what, like, on piggybacking off of what Mr. Sadu said, what the British, what the British had left after they left. Oh, sorry. The federal system that was in place, like the political landscape after the British left Nigeria. How was that? What do you see it to be? Was it centralized? Did everyone have an equal say? how did the federal military government come about, actually, from what your understanding of it is?
Yeah. The fact one. At the immediately after the post, at the independence, prior to independence, there were lots of situations on ground, politically, economically, socially in Nigeria. And it will be fallacious for us to assume that the interests of the people were at the forefront of all negotiation going on that time. I can tell us that prior to the independence of 1960, we had, like my honorable friend mentioned earlier, we had self-government in the western region, the eastern region, and the northern region. And the reason for having that, we know that is still about concentrating and perpetuating the continuity of the colonial power. I am not saying it shouldn't be the same, but I am saying people were not consulted at all, or rather, not enough. Unlike 1859 Constitution, well, 1859 meeting in Germany, where Africa was divided and no single African was there. So coming to like 1957, which was the time that Western region became a self-government part of Nigeria, we will see that maybe it's a bit of plus. And not only that, we know that this time 106 years ago, there was no country called Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
We had regions, we have different empires. We had European empires, we have Hausa, Fulani, Kanuri, Ibibios, Ijaw, Shekiri. So we have about 350 ethnic groups, and we have more than 500 languages. But when Lord Lugard and his girlfriend Fiona, or whatever the name is, came together, they look at what their main interests were, and that was economic interest. And for administrative convenience, they welded the whole of Nigeria together without having, I'm not sure there's a single Nigerian, even including all the Obas then, Obong of Calabar, the Oba of Ife, or Ni of Ife, or the Oba of Oyo, or Ijebu, or Lagos. I've never read it anywhere where any Oba was part of the amalgamation of Nigeria in 1914. So you will see that there were lots of mistrust, there were lots of divide and rule, carrot and stick approach, to this period. Now, when Nigeria was given independence, it's not as if Nigeria was to be given independence, but there were lots of international situations that led to independence of Nigeria. You will see that many Nigerians participated in the First and the Second World War. When they arrived in the war front, Burma, some came to Europe, and they traveled all over the world. All those people after the war of 1914 to 1839 to 45, they came back to Nigeria. And these people had different mentality, and they realized the need for self-government, for Nigeria to rule itself. Because when they were in the war front, they realized that when they were with white people, if gunshots came at any one of them, they would both die. They eat together, They do lots of things together. So they see nothing special about any white person. So they now advocated for independence. And there were lots of agitations and lots of issues. There were lots of constitutional conferences, you know, from 1940s to like 1960 before we got the independence. And if this is the case, it means independence didn't just come. Even though it was given to us on the platter of gold, I may still say, because we did not severe relationship with Western power. I would say we had independence, but it's not the type of independence we should have. What we had, I would call it flag independence. And flag independence just means we have green, white, green, that is ours, and we take the British flag off. But all economic, social aspect of Nigeria still remain, most of it still remain in the hands of the British. And even up to tomorrow, there's percentage of British influence. When we go to the first election that my friend alluded to, you know, NCNC and AG and those things, we realize that they planned to rig it even from United Kingdom, you know, and the coordinator was saying something about the military intervention in years down the line. We had independence in 1960. We had Republican Constitution in 1963. That is, we said the Queen is no more the president, the head of state of Nigeria. Because prior to then, we have to use the legal system of United Kingdom, you know. But the students of University of Ibadan that time, because it was one of the oldest, 1948 or 47, you know, they really gave it to the prime minister then. And then 1963, we move away. We thought we move away, but underground, and that's why the corruption that emanated at the first instance was very, very essential. The British analysts, the British representation in Nigeria knew the tribes very well. They knew the major three tribes very well. You know, the Igbos, they have names for them. The Yorubas, they have names for them. The Hausas, they have names for them. And when you look at it, if the first prime minister had been an Igbo man, Nigeria would have gone different way. It would have been ruled very well. If Yoruba had been the first prime minister, it would have been a different ball game. So they intentionally put somebody in the north for a purpose. Okay? So every agreement we have on paper had little or nothing to do with economic interest. They don't need nothing else than to have economic not input, output.
Yeah.
When you look at the railway line in Nigeria, all the way from the north to the port of Lagos, that's what it is. So it's not about you, it's about them. When you look at the all the investment, they've been taking oil from Nigeria from 1958, isn't it? Not 1960. But though there was no money on petrol that time. But from 1977, the money started rolling in when we joined OPEC. But what this did or has done is that it gave the British the chunk of the outcome. We sell crude, cannot processing it. Can we not process it? We can. But why are we not? You know, those are the little things. And you realize from 1960 to 66, just within 6 years, military have taken over. And even the military that took over were planned from here. They all went to Sandhurst University here, the military school. They planned everything, including Ghana, everything in Europe, in United Kingdom for one. So
Oh, thank you so
that
much, Mr. Cole. Thank you so much, Mr. Cole. Yeah, you essentially did a very, very nice brief summary of it. And I guess what I conclude from what you said is, even though the British had left, they hadn't actually left the country because their
no.
influence was very, very strong still. So I'm going to move on to the next question. I'm going to move on to Mr. Dr. Uche, if you could answer. Now, following on from what Mr. Cole said, obviously the economic necessity of in terms of politics in Nigeria was very, very necessary when discussing the British in Nigeria. Economics was probably one of the most important things. And so could you maybe explain to me why you think that the Northern government ended up taking precedence over the rest of the governments when it came to, over the rest of the tribes when it came to control over the federal government? Yeah. Thank you so much.
Is the question meant for me?
Yes. Sorry.
I thought you repeat yourself again, please.
Oh, yeah. So the federal, like Mr. Cole was saying, the economics involved in the political landscape of Nigeria was very, very necessary. But when, in terms of all the tribes that the British could have picked to, use as, I guess, their pawns, why do you think that the Northerners ended up being the government that, ultimately controls the federal government?
Okay, thank you very much. Like the speaker has actually articulated in some of the points he made, I wouldn't want to repeat it.
Yes.
But before we can talk about Nigeria, like as he rightly pointed out, is you have to look at the pre-colonial and the colonial and the post-colonial. Okay, and so during, like, just a summary of it, pre-colonial, independent states, independent nations in the present Nigeria, they were all autonomous communities, autonomous nations, until the British came after the so-called colonialism, which is the Berlin Conference of 1884 to 1885, where Africans were partitioned and eventually we fall under the hand of a British Empire. And then when you look at some of the negotiations, when Lugard came up, the amalgamation of 1914, then we also have a series of constitutional conferences. When you have a Clifford Constitution of 1921, then the Bodleian Constitution of 1939, then you moved on to Maxson Constitution of 1951. Eventually, the Littleton Constitution, which brings kind of a Republican constitution. If you eventually sort the issues that ended up in that, in 1953 Constitutional Conference, both in London and Ibadan, where the Northerners, led by Ahmad Bello, then disagreed, because they were looking at it from the proportional representation, that most of the things has to be given to them based on their population, and at the end of the whole day, it all agreed. If you look at the Nahuru's also raised in the hall at that particular time, calling for the independence in 1960, which they not oppose, because to them, the 19 oppose that because they are not ready at that particular time. So what happened actually is that in pre-colonial Nigeria, the Hausa Fulani were more centralized. They have established system of governance. When you come to the West, it's a kind of a mini centralization, where the Obas reign supreme, but not without working with the, consultation with the other rulers. So there wasn't a supreme leader. Then when you come to the East, where the Igbos are seen as Bucephalus, a Republican, there is no, centralized system of government.
Yeah.
A power is not concentrated in one hand, where you see that though there are those who make the rules, but it's not that kind of, when you look at the North in the whole, the jihad of Othman Danfodio changed the landscapes of the North. The Hausa's prince were all there, they were ruling until Othman Danfodio came, because he accused some of them of practicing, religious, the type brand of Islam, which they are practicing, which he felt that they are not practicing the real Islam. So that was when the jihad was introduced, with the help of the Hausas, proletariats, the peasants who worked with him. So he was able to overthrow them and impose the Fulani kind of rule. And that is when the caliphate came in the North. So the system was already there when the British came. Islam was already working in the North. There are also minority groups in the North who are animists, before. So they entered into agreement, the last caliphate who was defeated by the British, who refused to surrender, he was killed. So at the end, there was a negotiated, rule by the British. British accepted to allow them to have the Islam, their practices, the Sharia, but with a clause: removal of amputating of legs, stoning, adulteries, and all rest. So which was agreed. That became when, so it's easier when British introduced indirect rule.
Yeah.
Just to note, British colonialism was not to develop Africa. I call it a primitive colonialism.
Yeah.
It is not a satellite colonialism when you look at South Africa or Canada, where the British intend to settle down. But in Africa, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, besides South Africa, there is this primitive way. The only thing is to accumulate, help the queen, then moved on. So they were easy to collect the taxes, because why? The system in the North gave them that prelude to collect taxes.
Yeah.
So it was easy for them to collide with the North. So they couldn't find it easy in Southeast. If you remember the Aba women riot in 1929, which opposed that their husbands want to pay tax and all the rest of them. So it was because British thought there was no system of government in the Southeast that introduced the warrant chief, to make them very easy. So if you look at some of the post-colonial scholars, from Chinua Achebe down to Wole Soyinka, most of their books, they argue against these issues, because the British thought there was no, there is no culture, there's no system, they were primitive, which Chinua Achebe debunked in his book, The Things Fall Apart. Yeah. Which he trying to argue the contrary, and followed it with the arrow of God. So the North ended up having that, was like somebody said there, they based on that population that the North was popular. And this argument would have, initially, if you read the book of Ahmadu Bello, My Life, North was the first who said they want to pull out from Nigeria. They want to go to secession. Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe refused.
Mhm.
Argued that they can manage. And that is why when Ahmadu Bello came to Lagos in Ibadan, he was about to go, people were stoning him in Lagos at Ajora train stations. He was not happy. So when he went back to the north, he vowed not to have anything to do with the south.
Mhm.
And that is why he ceded the prime ministership to Tafawa Balewa. Tafawa Balewa was not the leader of NPC. Ahmad Bello was the leader of NPC. And again, because his policy has always been northernization of the north, one north, one all.
Mhm.
He never believed in the federalism, the true federalism. He never believed in that dispersion of power where people can do other things. He believed in the north, not for north.
Mhm.
So British, they weren't radicals in the north. Most of them were subtle. In the south, they were more educated Southerners, more radicals who opposed the British. They want the British to go. They're against the new colonialism and imperialism. And all these things were opposed by the North. The South, the North were more contented with what they are getting from the North,
Mhm.
from the British. So
Yeah.
British, by looking at that, believe that giving the power to the North would be the best thing to happen to them. And don't forget, at that particular time, there was bipolarism in the world. The bipolarism is that most Africans who gained independence, from Nkrumah down to Mobutu, from Patrick Lumumba, and a host of others, were going into communism. So they believe that most radicals from the South may lean towards socialism. So
Mhm.
they believe that the best way is to hand over power to the North.
Okay.
And I think that was why most of the election at that particular time was distorted. Population census were distorted. So
Yeah.
in order to give the North that, but I blame the post-colonial
Yeah.
leaders of South
Mhm.
to have agreed to cede most legislative seats to the North in the Ibadan conference. You know, if they had insisted, I mean, that would have been the prelude to go to your tent, O Israel. So I think that's the reason
Yeah.
why they ceded that power.
Thank you so much. That was an excellent answer, I must say. And so we've basically covered the history of Nigeria very briefly. You know, how like the political background to Nigeria pre-colonially, and then after the British had immediately left. So I would like to ask if anybody has any questions that are listening that aren't part of the panel, do ask, because after this we're going to move on more to the current history of Nigeria. So we're going to like whiz past the Civil War basically, and we're going to look after the Civil War and look at how like parties formed and whatnot. So if anybody has any questions of what we've covered so far, please don't be shy to raise your hand if you'd like to ask. Just gonna give like 10 seconds and see if any raised hands are up. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead then, and we're gonna start covering the current history, Nigeria. So I think a lot of us have had questions about just the politics of Nigeria, especially party politics. So I'd like to call on to Mr. Sadu. I know that you are part of APC, but could you kind of explain to me, give me a brief explanation of how parties in Nigeria operate? How do they come about? How many are there roughly? Is there like a limit to parties in Nigeria? just give me kind of a very brief overview of the party politics of Nigeria. Mr. Sadu, if you can unmute your mic. Thanks.
Can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, moderator. You've asked me to talk about how party operates, how many, and limits. Well, in Nigeria at the moment, we have so many parties that are registered with INEC, but many of them are not actually functioning, if I can put it that way. In fact, INEC made a move to deregister many of them recently, but the courts overturned the move. So the main parties in Nigeria are the APC and the PDP. They are the main parties that we've got in Nigeria at the moment. And if you look at them, one is to the right and one is to the left. The APC, Action Progressive Congress, is you can say ideologically, they are to the left or middle left. And the other one is to the right. So the main issue, well, if you look at them, I want to argue that it's one of the main problems that Nigeria is facing at the moment, that you cannot actually differentiate in terms of ideology these two main parties, because you see them, crisscrossing. Many of those people, the guys that you think they're on the right, they are now on the left. I mean, so many that are actually who were in the PDP, they were instrumental when APC was formed. People like Sharaki and all the rest of them. So they moved to Smart, Adeyemi, and all the rest of all these guys were in the PDP. And so you cannot actually, in terms of ideology, there's no clear demarcation to demarcate these main parties. And that's one of the problems Nigeria is having today.
Yeah.
If you have an ideology, it's a big problem. It's supposed to be like a compass to actually inform you in the way you form your policies to deliver the dividends of democracy to the people. So if you haven't got that compass, you just go zigzag and all the rest of them. The reasons for this is just political corruption. People are just interested in getting to power. Politics will be a calling for you to serve your people. It's not, it shouldn't be a means to an end. It's like a pastor. It's like being called. Until we start seeing it like that, it's a calling. It's not like the winner takes it all at the expense of the people. It is very fortunate and very, very sad that what we have today is our political parties that are formed for the elites and not for the people.
And I just have a question. As being a representative from APC, what do you think? How do you think there's any chance of changing that, especially within your party? Do you think that there is, a certain, are you guys leaning more towards the left in things that have been done, policies that have been enacted and whatnot? Or do you believe that it is the same across the board?
Yeah, it's shocked. I've not come here to deceive you guys. I think as a party person, if I tell you that my party will change things, I think I'm deceiving you and I'm deceiving myself. And the essence of this talk or this meeting will be defeated. They to educate ourselves and to see where we're going, and it's going to be very disappointing to the youth as well. Someone of my age come here and be telling you guys lies. We have problems, no doubt about it. As an APC, I can say it anywhere. I have not joined politics to tell lies. At the moment, as I said, because there is no ideological difference between the two parties, we have guys that are to the left within our party, that they mean well, want to move the country forward, but they are in the minority. I'm not sure that they can actually move the party forward and make necessary correction to address the problem facing the country. That is the problem we have. So, answer your question is that my party, APC, because we've allowed ourselves to be diluted, we have lost focus. And because we have lost focus, because we want to retain power. So that has actually derailed us in terms of where we want to go. Because if you look at when the party was founded, it was founded with good intentions. People came in from, opposition parties, and
collided.
And only for them, when they came, to dilute our focus, to dilute our ideology, to dilute our policies, and we tolerated them. We came in to fight corruption. We came in to do all sorts of things to address the issue of decadence in education, in our institutions, and all the rest of them. But have we achieved it? No, we have not.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you for that honest answer. Could I ask Dr. Azukoma, could you kind of discuss your opinions on that as well? So the political ideologies in Nigeria and how they basically affect the way, like the choices people have to make when it comes to, election, and like kind of the unclear disparity between who is who, Could you discuss that some more, following on of Mr. Dr. Sadu?
Thank you very much. I listened to Kolawole, with due respect. There is no political party in Nigeria. It's a party of, a bed of the same feathers. Party of chop by chop. One of scholar from one of my lecturer from University of Ibadan, he once said, describe what he called prebendal corruption in Nigerian body politics. When he wrote the book, just this Transition Without End, and I agree with him. The most parties in Nigeria are just rent seekers. The rental class, when you find in a state where there are rental class who feed on the rent, there's no ideology. Politics is based in ideology as is practiced in the Western countries. It was Babangida who tried to do that. Maradona, the SDP and NRC, party to the right, party to the left. Gerrymandering in Nigerian politics is like you wake up one morning, you jump to PDP. From PDP, you jump to APC. From APC, you jump to APOGA. From APOGA. The only is where they're only jumping is not for the interest of the masses. The Latin word we say, salus populi e suprema ley. That's the supreme, the welfare of the masses are supreme law. And when this is not a key cardinal importance of any political party, it's not a political party. So that we have the crop of Nigerian politicians today jumping from one political party to other is where they will fit. Because what you are producing in Nigeria is a contractual politicians who feed on the rents. If it doesn't favor him in PDP, he jumped to APC. Just, for example, take what happened in Benin election, Edo State. How many days to the election? Obaseki left when he was rejected in APC. He was accommodated in PDP. The PDP did not accommodate him because they know his policies are better, but because what he will share, because what is killing Nigerian policy, a prebendal corruption and plenty patron sense, where the cake is shared. not because of the interests of the masses. So there is no ideology. When Atiku and Co and Saraki felt that they cannot be accommodated in APC, they jumped back to PDP. That is Nigerian politics. Until we change that, ideology defines what you believe and where the party is going. There's none. You cannot even look at APC and look at what this is. As I said, my forthcoming book, Babangida Buhari promised 100 points that he would do for Nigeria. 100 during his campaign. None was fulfilled.
Yeah.
He failed woefully with a support from Prenu newspaper, Sahara reporters, from Guardian, all of them. He failed. What they are doing there is spinning. Like Mohammed will be telling you that white is green. Green is red, because they pride on the vulnerables of Nigerians.
Yeah.
Where my good friends, the former governor of Ekiti State, said stomach infrastructure.
And I have a question. Do you think that the political landscape that is intact now will allow for someone with actual ideologies to come in and exist there? Do you think a party could be formed with, upstanding ideologies and distinctive ones at that? And do you think they would be able to survive the election or even get to election standard?
It's not going to work, because the problem in Nigeria is not even the political class. The problem is the followership. Because the followership, like as I said, the stomach infrastructure, are interested where they can fit and who pays the highest money. So you come in with your ideology, they are not interested in that ideology. That is why the good men never rule Nigeria. And they keep on recycling. Take Awolowo then, Obafemi Awolowo, has one of the most credible political ideology that he wanted to foster in Nigeria. He failed woefully, because Nigerians don't want that. It is a short-term period. That's what Nigerians want to hear. Once you buy the bag of beans, rice, tomatoes, and share to the women, all it's you that we have to follow. So the problem is that it's not even an ideology, because most African political parties has no ideology, because the shape of nationalism that ushered in ushered in independence was based either in ethnicity or religion. So whatever somebody from the South, from the East is doing, the North will not agree. Whatever somebody from the West is doing, the East or the North may not even agree. Everything is interpreted from the religious point of view, or ethnic centrism. So it is very difficult to define where things will go. So ideology will never succeed in Nigeria, because we have seen people who came in with an ideology and they fell, like in the First Republic. So ideology is not going to work.
Somebody in the comments has a question. So Isaac, could you unmute your mic and ask the question, please?
Yeah, the question I want to ask is how did, just like you just said, in the First Republic, the political parties had ideologies. So how did it degrade to this point whereby we only have let's say what we call career politicians that are only in it for, chop make a chop?
I think that question is
what
that
measures are included? Yeah.
Sorry, who's that question directed towards?
Towards the doctor, Dr. Azuka.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, because in First Republic, there was an ideology. most of this political party was offshoot of social cultural organizations like Action Group came from Omo Oduduwa, a cultural organization. The same from NPC, Arewa. So they operating within the cardinals of the culture, just like the NPC was saying, Northernization. They were not talking about Nigeria. It's for the North, only for the North. It was only NCNC who was federal in character, because there was a lot of people from different brand of Nigerians who are part of NPC, NCNC. It was easier for Zik to win election in the Southwest. So after that, the crisis, how the politicians at that particular time was playing to the gallery of religion, to the ethnicity, people want to go back to the reason, no, you're supposed not to be here, made Zik to left the Southwest and went back to his own region, Southwest, because he was majority in the West, but ethnic politics left others to decamp, and he found himself a minority. That was one of the beginning of ethnic politics in Nigeria. So that ideology was as an offshoot of nationalist struggle. Most of them were struggling in order to gain independence. Just like Nkrumah said, give us the independence. Any other thing we follow. But he never reasoned that you can't have the independence without having the economic independence. You know, because that's the mistake some of our nationalists did. They were struggling to have independence without looking at the economic independence. So after the independence, most of them now started recurring back to their own ethnic origins because they want to become a member either of the parliament and the president. And that was the genesis of Nigerian crisis.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. That was a brilliant response. Did that answer your question, Isaac?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay, cool. Oyen also has a question. So you
Sorry,
can
can I contribute to that, please?
Yes.
Yeah, I think the main issue, first of all, the narrative that the doctor said that that Zik won majority in the West and that started the problem. I don't think that narrative was correct. During the election, I think it was
1954 election.
Yeah, 1954 election. It was 1954 election. I think it was after Littleton Constitution or something. So what happened was that, NCNC had been since 1922 under Macaulay or something. So that was the main political party that were known in the whole of Southern region. But then Action Group came newly and was trying to claim popularity in the Southwest. There was election. So when there was election, both the NCNC and the Action Group that was just formed 3 years or 3 or 4 years earlier, they could not, none of them could control none of them had majority. So they had to form alliance, just like, because you need to have, just like the US election, that you need to make certain, gain certain percentage before you can form government. So none of the main political parties then could form government. So you have to go into alliance. Ibadan Progressive Union under Shifa Kinloye was being wooed by both parties, because, and some other lesser political parties in Nevada or in the West, they were able to actually, I'm not denying it, that there was a kind of tribal jingoism and all these things against Zeke, that, oh, you want the East to rule you, da, 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 da. So they were able to use that to convince a small political party like by the Progressive Union. So what they now did was that they now were able to convince them to team up with Action Group. And that's how Zeke could not control the majority, and Awolowo became the premier of Western region. That's that regarding that. That's the way I know about the issue. But the doctor can disagree with me. So regarding what we're talking about, our party, in terms of ideology, the question was, if we said we had ideology after independence or during independence, how did we come to this, that we have lost ideology? No one was everyone, no, the ideology is no more there. It's like politics of the stomach that the doctor mentioned. I think what happened basically was that after the election, our leaders then, they meant well, but because of the issue of tribalism, domination, and all the rest of them, as the doctor clearly explained, each one for his own region, they did not actually make any serious effort, especially Balewa government, to actually build a national government, a true national government. Because don't forget, Sardauna of Sokoto was controlling Balewa. Sardauna of Sokoto never believed in building a nation, but building the northern part. It's there. If you Google it, you will see that. Where he was saying that if a Yoruba man or an Igbo man apply for job in the north, that he will not give it to them. He would rather prefer to give it to a white man under contract, or give it to them under contract. He said it openly. He said when he became premier, this northern civil service, he only met 4 civil servants in the north. He began modernization of the northern civil service, and he was giving instruction to Tafawa Balewa, who was the prime minister, what to do. So this is the beginning of the problem. Our leaders who started independence, they were never conscious or serious about building a nation. And that's the problem. So it accumulated in political thuggery here and there to maintain and grab power. It was in the course of that people like Awolowo, they sent into prison, all that, this and that, and accumulated in the coup of 1966 and eventual civil war. So the military actually came. They meant well, to restore situation. People like Nzogu and who are ideologically inclined and were, to me, wrongly tagged that it was Haniboko. I don't believe it was Haniboko. It was just dominated by the Igbos. So, but after that, it now came. So what now happened, basically, how we now got here is that the military that came in, if they had been ideologically inclined and serious about building a nation, we wouldn't have been in this situation. But then most of them that came in after if you look at Murtala Muhammad led the counter coup of Nzogu and all the rest of them, so that brought in Gowon. Gowon ruled for 8 years, was toppled. Murtala Muhammad came in. So when the Marak came in, was toppled. I mean, that was a coup. Obasanjo came in. A fake coup. Obasanjo came in. When Obasanjo came in, he handed over to military of, the civilian government of Shagari. And unfortunately, Shagari had no ideology and all the rest of them. That corruption and all the rest of them. So we had leaders that had no vision for the country, that had never made any conscious effort to build a nation for us. So, and that is where we lost it. So the question was, when we had ideology that was supposed to govern us, it was destroyed immediately after independence by tribalism and regionalism, me to my own region, to my own people, and all the rest of them, that led to the crisis that accumulated into the current situation, where what we have at the moment is just, it's just everybody to himself. The ethnicity, ethnic politics, and all the rest of them is what we have at the moment. And we cannot survive it. And it's going to get to a point, and that's what led to the last riot. It's going to get to a point where what's going to happen is like a revolution or evolution. Is that we evolve positively or a revolution. And that's why I like youth being conscious now to take powers from the people. It can still work if you people organize yourself. And I think this is the essence of this meeting. This group, you can make a lot of difference. Only one woman in the United States of America changed the course of song by refusing to stand up for a white man. You guys can do it by organizing yourself, because you asked that question much earlier. It is possible by organizing yourself, going one door to door to let people that look, this is there's no alternative. You need to get power, because these people are taking your future. All these people that are current politicians, they are just wasting your future. You can't go to your mother country and not just if you go, you are not even sure whether you're going to come back. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sadu. So,
sorry, my dear. Before, let me correct that impression, because I have it here with me, and any other person can Google it and get right, the right answer. What Kolawole said. I'll read it out. The Ibadan electorate did not take kindly to the deflection of its elected representatives on the platform of IPP to the action group. They used the opportunity of 1954 election and the 1956 regional election to express their aversion of action group. In the 1954 federal election, when both parties went head to head, the NCNC won 22-6 in the Federal House of Representatives, while the AG secured 19. I was right. Okay, so I was right.
I wasn't talking. I was talking. Sorry, doctor. I was not talking about the federal. I was talking about the premiership.
No, I'm not talking about premiership. I was talking about Zik never contested to be a premiership, or a leader in the house takes over the decision before he left.
Sorry, just in the interest of time.
Okay, that's fine.
Because there are two people who have had questions for a while now. So I'm just going to I'm gonna ask Oyin Kalasol. Sorry, Oyin Kalasol. Yeah, can you please unmute your mic and ask your question if you still have your question? Sorry for the delay.
No, absolutely. Thank you so much for this and the conversation as well. I think my question to the speakers, first of all, to Mr. Kolawole first. You are still a member of the APC, so and you've kind of been brutally honest with us about how you don't think it's achieving its purposes. My question is why are you still a member? Do you think it's a flawed organization? And for young people to move Nigeria forward, is APC a good enough party to join if a young person was interested in politics to actually move the country forward? Because obviously all of this conversation and all of the protests has been for change in Nigeria. What are your suggestions? I mean, that's the first question I have for Mr. Kolawole. I think my second question goes to the doctor. I think his name is Dr. Azukuma. I'm sorry, sir, if I said your name wrong. But yeah, so you've spoken about, the history and also the ethnic divide in the political system in Nigeria, in political system in Nigeria. Moving forward, knowing with our history, actually, the fact that Nigeria was as an amalgamated state that was forced together, how do you suggest that we move forward as a new Nigeria?
Okay, so I'm gonna call on Mr. Sadu to answer the question Oyin had for you first, and then we'll go on to the next question.
Okay, thank you very much. The last person asked that questions. Well, your question was why are you still a member of APC when you just said that it's flawed, and APC good party is it a good party to join in view of the flaws, and what are my suggestions? Well, let me just say that there's no political party that hasn't got their own flaws. There's no political that hasn't got their own flaws. And all I've just said was basically that APC as a party has been bedeviled by so many issues, especially on who they take as members, because they want to retain power. They've allowed or diluted their policies and their ideology that informed them when they formed the party.
Hello? Sorry.
Yes.
I think your camera has...
Sorry,
Hello?
can you hear me?
Okay, right. Sorry, yeah, your connection was really bad just there for a second. Thank you. You can continue. I think
Yeah,
we can
you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, can you hear me now? So what I was saying that, I mean, the question is, why am I say there? Yeah, if it's that flawed. And I said that, well, all political parties are flawed, and I've explained that. The reason I'm there is that you can only be on the inside to influence policies. You cannot be on the inside you cannot influence policies if you are on the outside. So what I'm saying basically is that after all these parties that we have in Nigeria now, the one that you think that, yes, is to the left. I'm always to the left of politics. So the one that you think that, yes, at least they have the semblance of what you believe can move Nigeria forward. That's why I'm there. So the idea that do I agree? I mean, would I suggest young people to join the party? I will 100% encourage you to join the party, because it is by joining party APC like that, because don't forget they started the underlying ideology that have been subsumed by situation of wanting to retain power is still there. So it's just a matter of having the right leaders there to actually go back and use that ideology as a compass. So yes, I will encourage anyone to still join APC, because I'm not going to say that you should join a PDP because of their antecedent, even though I made that very clear. There's no much difference between the two of them at the moment, and the reason for that, I've explained it, is just because of the fact that APC want to retain power. They want to gain the Senate and all the House of Rep control, like governor, how many governors in each of the 36 states, and they have compromised themselves. So, but you can only be on the inside, as I said. So that's what I want to say.
Oyin Kanasola, do you have any response to what was said?
Yeah, I don't want to take over the conversation.
Yeah, no, but yeah, do express yourself.
Thank you so much for that answer. And you know what, it's true. No party is perfect, even in the UK. But I think I'm just a little bit concerned. What are your thoughts? I mean, this is not meant to demean anybody's character. What are your thoughts with people like Mr. Bola Ahmed Tinubu being a really key component of the APC political party, and how that contributes to the effectiveness of the party, especially as a young person, wanting to kind of be part of that. And a lot of young people are very skeptical about not even just the political parties, but the people and the members that play a massive role in that party, because simply people, what we view is that they don't really care about our welfare and the progressiveness of the country, but more about career politics, as we've already spoken about. So how do you kind of, I know it's not a perfect party, no party is perfect. The Labour or the Conservative Party in the UK is nowhere near perfect either, but actually there's still a little bit of hope, because there's certain systems in place that kind of helps to fight corruption.
Yeah, thank you for that. Chief Ahmed Bola Ahmed Tinubu, actually, is my leader, and I can say this, he actually meant well for the country. Some people may not believe that, but I can say this categorically. He was equally very, very concerned about where the country was going to under Jonathan's government, 2014, 2015. Things were so bad. And that's what motivated this man into forming APC. He thought he could rescue the country from the abyss of corruption that was going on then. And so he was victimized. He was the most investigated governor, because they wanted to rope him, get him roped in and jail him. They could find something against him, but they could not. But let's put that aside. So in terms of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he's a capitalist, but he really meant well for the country. And the reason why things have got to this level was that when we got to power APC, because we were desperate to get the power from President Jonathan, and so we made different deals with the opposition, who are the members of the disgruntled members of the opposition, people like Sharaki and all the rest of them. People like the current governor of Sokoto State and all the rest of them. So we brought them in. So when we brought them in to gain power, which we did, but as I said earlier on, the problem we had was basically the ideology and the vision. Our ideology and vision could, do not match. It doesn't match with those of these guys. And because we wanted to retain power, so our leaders compromised their vision for the country. That's the way I see it. They compromised their vision. So in terms of corruption was watered down, inefficiency was watered down. So it was more or less business as usual. So to me, I think the way regarding Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the man has tried his best. I know people were still telling a lot of things about him and this of that. And as I said, show me one evidence of corruption that actually link Bola Ahmed Tinubu to it. They have not found any. Yes, they said this and that. He is cornering that contract, cornering with this contract. The revenue and the generation, he is taking part of it. But that is it. You look at revenue generation of Lagos State when before he came in, it has skyrocketed. You get me? My state or your state is still there because they've not come up with a waste of collecting revenue. So that's
something that Oyen had said in the comments was compromise is the key to downfall of Nigerians. So on that rhetoric, I actually have to say that for someone to, I guess, join a party who has already been corrupted and I guess that has compromised so deeply, would it not lead to more detriment to the youth's, efforts to help gain a better Nigeria if they do end up joining? Because I from history, what happens is once you join a corrupt, political party, it usually stays that way. You know what I mean? It doesn't exactly change, especially when a lot of the politicians are out here bribing people to join, people who do have a good future, I guess, ahead of them in terms of actually, committing themselves to policies that will help the public, So is there any sort of guarantee that if you join APC now, that you won't be corrupted from the inside, even though you decided that you were going to help,
It depends on yourself. Look at myself. I'm a good example of what it is. I know why I joined politics, and I know my belief. I think it depends on individual. Even if you form a new party there, if you yourself, you are not, you don't have that moral high ground, you don't have that moral principle, that can inform your policies, that can inform things, regardless of the party you join. So it depends on individual. And that's what I'm saying, that if you guys, the young ones, imagine thousands, if those people that form NSA something demonstration last time, if they move into APC, just imagine if all of them move into APC en masse like that, how are they going to shape the policy? They will shape the policy. They will shape they will, because continuously, if you continue to say this is wrong, we need to rewrite the constitution of the party, we need to do this, we need to do that, they will listen to them. And that's what the point I'm making. So, but also they can form their own political party and start to be part of the engine of change, to bring about positive change. So those are the two things. But important thing is for them to have the moral high value. I mean, moral, high morals and ideology, and believe that yes, this is it. This country must change, and I'm not going to compromise my morals.
Okay, yeah. So on that same, I'm just going to read out some of the comments. Miss Chichi asked, should the youth create new parties? And you did in fact answer that, and you said that yes, you think that if that's what they need, that they should. Alawa Shion said, as a youth, I cannot join a political party that does not have ideology. Lincoln said, the aim, sir, is not to change a people/party. It is counterproductive to join APC for the aim for first changing its present constitution and then facing the way forward. No, by then Nigeria will be tattered and smoked. So basically he was saying that it would be counterproductive to join APC. There are lots of comments. So what has gone so wrong that a political party has no vision for the country it wants to govern? That's a fantastic question. Before we go into that question, Ulujimi has been waiting for ages to ask her question. So I'm going to give you the floor now to speak.
Okay, thank you very much. Ulujimi is my name. Well, I think some of the questions I would have loved to ask have been asked, but I just want to point something straight here. It's clear that the problem we have with our political landscape is just the fact that our political parties have no vision for the country. And I would argue that anywhere, because if you take a look at the United States, for instance, you talk about the Republicans, you talk about the Democrats, they have their ideologies. They have a way they want to fix the country. So the ideology of a political party supersedes even the president if it comes from that political party. We don't have that.
Yeah.
So what we have is a political party that has been sponsored by money bags. And I would not advise any youth to go into that. I mean, if you want to stay incorruptible, don't go there. So it's like going into a red ocean filled with sharks. So in my own opinion, it's better that we call ourselves together and then we come up with something that can work for us. And to Mr. Kolawole Saidu, I really appreciate you. You've said a lot of things sincerely. But what I would like to ask is, what is the mindset of these old people? I'll put it. What's their mindset now? I know the power tussle, the power struggle with them. They're not ready to let it go. I want to know. You would know. Are they ready to actually leave this place for us? I mean, it's not supposed to be about age, but they've really disappointed us. I mean, if you take a look at the United States, majority of these, their office holders, elderly men and women, but they are still able to impress the citizens. But we, in this part of the world, we've been failed by the older generation. So what I want to ask is, are they aware that they would have to leave? And if they are aware they would have to leave, what are the discussions they are making concerning this? And are you all talking with each other, advising each other on the necessity of leaving the entire scene for the younger people to handle things from here, or even provide some form of mentoring in such a way that we can have an easy transition? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Olujimi. You have asked a very pertinent question, very, very important question that actually has been agitating the mind of the party. And I can assure you that the president, President Muhammadu Buhari, and his government and the party in general, they are very, very concerned, especially about the recent NSAP demonstration. It really shook the country, not only the country, but the party. And so one of the things that they're trying to do is to do registration, new registration for the party to address these issues. Because I tell you what, see, political corruption normally starts from primary election. That's where they rig primary election. So once you bring in, you allow people to rig the primary. That is it. For instance, I just come during the primary, bribe people, bribe delegates, and all the rest of them, and I'm corrupt. You, that is a good person that really want to serve the people, have used my money to corrupt the system, to push you aside, and get myself elected as a senator or as a governor and all the rest of them. So it's like a business, and they go kind of it's business. Money that I have spent in campaign and not of billions. The first thing I would do is to recoup those money that I've spent on the election. But it should not really be that way. The political parties in Nigeria needs to reorganize themselves. They need to put limit at the spent on campaigning. That is where INEC needs to do a lot about this. But that is another topic entirely that we need to discuss some other day. But regarding your question on old people living and all the rest of them, I don't believe in old people. And it's not the problem we have in Nigeria. It's not about old people or people. There are some young people that are even more corrupt than the so-called old people. What are we talking about? The Meiji became the Meiji Fayose and all the rest of them. They were in their late 30s. I think the Meiji was 39 or in his 30s when he became Speaker of the House of Representatives. Was he not arrested and tried for corruption? How about Fayose? If the guys became governor in the early 40s, and people like Folari and all the rest of them, they were young. What did they do? Nothing. So people like Gowon became president in his early 30s. What did they do to the country? Yeah, but if you like people like Fidel Castro was of the same age about them when he became when he led the revolution in 1959 and became a leader of the country. Because it's not about age. I think it is what I was saying earlier on. It has nothing to do with it. We have people that are corrupt among the youth. We have people that are corrupt. If you put the youth there now, without actually scrutinizing them, it's about the system. As I said, people are just taking advantage of the weak institutions that we have. You strengthen the institution, anybody can be there. You mess up, the institution is there to take care of you and put you in the cooler. So what we should be talking about is not about age or one group living there for the other. If you have weak institution, they will take advantage of it. If you say, okay, we've vacated the place, you take over. As long as you have weak institution, the police are not there to do the job. The auditor to audit something are corrupt. Everywhere is corrupt. No one is making them to be accountable for their crime and send them to jail. That's where the problem is. For what we should be clamoring for, it's not about the whole people or the young people. No, it's about strengthening our institutions. Our institutions are weak. The problem of Nigeria is not corruption. It is poor leadership. It's poor institution. Corruption is secondary. It's an opportunistic crime as a result of weak institution. So if there's anything I want you guys to take on today, is that we need to work to strengthen our institution. But the problem is, how do you strengthen institution when the people that are there are the corrupt people? That is what we need to do.
Philip O, you can unmute your mic and speak if you'd like to.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening,
Hello.
everyone.
Hello.
Yes, please. Good evening. My name is Jola. I'm representing the NSAS in France, NSAS teams in France. Just going by what everybody has contributed, I think it's quite evident that going by Nigerian history, where we're coming from, especially from colonial rule, and then to the fight for independence, and then to military coups, and then to democracy that we have up until now, we realize that we have a very weak system.
Yeah.
We have a system that wasn't created for the good of the country, neither for our economic prosperity, nor for our safety, nor for even the respect of our lives, Nigerian lives. The police system that we have in place is a legacy of colonial system that was put in place to, keep the locals in check. So every sort of inhumane treatment, even from the army or from the police, is a legacy, just like our political system is a legacy of colonization, is a legacy of the mistakes that the politicians and every Nigerian that came into power by army and all the institutions of different Nigerian ethnic groups. We are here today because of those happenings. I would also like to remind us that we were all different nations before colonization. The fact of colonization interrupted internal wars that kingdoms were having, interrupted the formation of nations that could have happened organically. So we have missed an entire era where we could have evolved for ourselves, and we could have agreed on the type of alliances and the type of nations that would have come out of those ancient kingdoms. So what we have now is a system that obviously is not working for any one nation that makes up the country, because a lot of Nigerians, we still see ourselves in light of our tribes. And also the political men, I also find it very funny that only men were involved in all of this. I feel like if women were really active, we probably would have less or half of the problems on the table right now. But that's just by a comment. But if we look back at the system that we had in place, we realize that, for example, Nnamdi Azikiwe was a Pan-Africanist. His idea of nationalism was way different from what Awolowo had, in that regions should maintain their power and their own control. Awolowo was very, very interested in, somehow moving the Yoruba nation in light of the fact that we were coming from a colonial government that interrupted natural formation of kingdoms. In the north, they already had an emirati or a caliphate sort of system that was oppressing the Hausa Fulani masses up until today, and also other minority groups that were classified as north. So we actually have a foundational problem. And I think most Nigerians, we now understand, especially young people, we now understand that what was handed over to us was or what we are experiencing, what our political class is handling right now, is definitely not a country. What we have is something that works for colonial powers who are still very much in collaboration with the federal government. So what we need to do on a very large scale is to really understand, why we are here, which is the history, all of that, and then decide together, even in different factions, how can we bring up ideologies based on all these lessons and where we are now in the year of 2020, the needs of the current world, and how Nigeria will, be part of the world that is now and is to come. So we need to understand as young people that, okay, we have these things that have happened. How are we going to make things better? One thing that we need to do is definitely start working on how we can construct systems that do not put men or women or any one person at the center, but keeps everybody in mind, a system that works for the country. And I think that's where a lot of people are clamoring for a restructuring of the country. I think that as Nigerians, everybody who is thinking about this, who is thinking about what the future could look like for Nigerians, we need to sit down and then define what restructuring could look like.
Yeah. Could I ask? Oh, sorry.
Yes,
sorry.
please.
Could I just ask Mr. Cole to maybe respond to your question so that we get, I haven't heard from him in a while, so so that we have a bit of a more
I wasn't
inclusive
actually making asking a question. I was actually making a comment.
just making a point. Yeah, okay.
Yes, just based on what everyone had
Has been
said.
spoken. Yeah.
So I think what we need to do as young people and as older people, like you, somebody have already mentioned, and in some other meetings, youth is not an ideology. We are all going to get old eventually anyway. So we need to start working on what the ideologies that could move Nigeria forward. We need to start working on what we mean by restructuring. Because we have different nations in the country, different ethnic groups and different interests, obviously there will be a lot of definitions, but we need to gather all of those things and then distill them and hopefully in parallel start working towards getting a government in 2023 that will be at least inclined to knowing what we can do, going forward as restructuring, because the journey is very long. Until we get back to the foundation and restructure and make sure that we come out with something of an arrangement that looks like a country or a Nigeria where many and all Nigerians, at least of all the ethnic groups that we have, everybody feels satisfied that their interests are, recognized and brought to the table. And also, I don't know how many people are from the northern Nigeria here. We have a great sentiment from the rest of the country that somehow there is a political class in the north that is controlling the country in collaboration with other external parties. I feel like it's important for us to have, I don't know, maybe when we have meetings like this again, to really reach out to progressives in the north, or even just people in the north that control, that somehow, probably are in public office or something. Let us understand let's know their view concerning what is Nigeria right now, so that all of us that just, that from the south, that we think that we are marginalized or somehow there's an agenda. What is there really an agenda from their own point of view? Let us all come to the table and have involvement, especially from the north, because I feel like that their involvement is very little in progressive discussions like this. And we really need to have representation from them, because what it implies if they don't come to programs like this is that they insist on maintaining the structure that we have. And it's a political structure that cannot take anyone anywhere in this modern world. So I'd really implore every one of us, old, young, middle age, to let us work on what the ideologies of the country could look like. And let us work on defining what restructuring could look like for the political landscape. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was a brilliant remark from the representative in SARS France. So I think we've discussed a lot about the ethnic, disparities. And Oyen had a question earlier on for Dr. Azukama, and so. I think that question really does tie in a lot to do with all the separation, I guess, within the ethnic powers. So, Oyen, could you just come back and ask that question again? And then we're also going to get a commentary from Mr. Jimmy Cole and take any other questions that we have. And then, we'll finish off from there.
So just as the representative from SARS France just said, we're like an amalgamated state of different nations that have come together due to colonialism. And obviously that has actually affected the way the country has operated and the systems that's been put in place not working for the country. Now this question goes to the doctor. He spoke about how, the current ways of working is not going to work for Nigeria, but what are the ways that you think we can, what are the things that you think we can implement moving forward, knowing that we are, tribalism is one of our main challenges as a nation, and also knowing the other type of challenges that we have when it comes to compromise and corruption and all that kind of stuff. I think you're still on mute.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Debayo, for your question. moving forward, last speaker said something about restructuring. The Nigerian nationalists, most of them view Nigeria from different perspectives. Awolowo, Ahmad Bello, some of them saw it as a mere geographical entity. I'm sorry to burst the bubble. There is no political party in Nigeria. There is no political party in Nigeria. Like one other guy said here, joining any of these political parties is a waste of time. It's just waste of time. I've listened to Mr. Kolawole. You know, he rolled out praises. These are things we see in Nigerian politics. Praising Ahmed Bola Tinubu. No capitalist will always be an agent of change. Check it everywhere. If you read the work of Iron Law of Oligarchy by Robert Mitchell, what did he define as capitalism? Primitive accumulation of wealth. Before Bola Tinubu became the governor of Lagos State, he was not rich. He was working in a mobile. Today, he's more richer than Western region. Where did he get his money? From rent, political rent. So APC as corrupt as PDP. It's the same thing. It's a politics of genotocracy. Last time we were promised the youth to run. Did you see any of the youths that won the election or nominated by the political party? It is the same recycling of the same name you have been hearing since 1960. From governor to senator, from senator to minister, this is what you'll be hearing. No single agent of change. It's just primitive accumulation. I have almost 70 points by APC promise. One of them was a change or restructuring Nigeria. I'm one of the people who believe once you get to the Aso Rock, the language change. Nobody is talking about a restructuring. Nobody is talking about true federalism. If you want to move Nigeria forward, Nigerian state has to be restructured. If you don't restructure Nigeria and go back to what we used to be, the North will continue to feed on the rent. Because most Nigerian politicians sees the federal government as a cake. Let me go there and pick my own cake. There's no nationalism, there's no patriotism, there is no way to contribute to the movement, to the industrialization or the progress of the nation. They will tell you the youth is a leader of tomorrow. This is nonsense. Have they given any youth the chance? We are pointing when Nigeria was still in the darkness, when most of these youth became leaders. All of them then were leaders. That was when Nigeria was still emerging from colonialism. But as the present Nigerian politics, which one of the guys said here, is a money bag. You don't have money, don't go into politics. You'll be wasting your time until the state is restructured. And how do we restructure the country? Because no politician wants to restructure. It's like everybody will be always saying, dancing that tune, restructuring, restructuring, just like APC promises. Today, no, APC is not talking about restructuring. It's how to consolidate power by all means. Buhari is there. When federal character principle was enshrined in the Nigerian constitution, was to introduce fairness, equity, and justice. Today, one particular part of the Nigeria is having all the hopefuls, and people who you said they are there, who form APC like Bola Tinubu, we are keeping quiet because he has an interest in Nigeria in 2023 presidential election. The youths eventually want to empower themselves. #SARS. The outcome of SARS, #SARS, most of them have been arrested and their accounts have been frozen. Yet we have APC. All of them are quiet. Sam and the former governor and the current governor of Ondo State, you read what he said? The federal government has a right to arrest them, go to court. That's the former attorney general. An apologist of the military. When deaths, a lot of people know, watch all the whole, if the politicians want to deceive you, they say judicial inquiry. There has not been any judicial inquiry that came up positive in Nigeria. After that, it will just go because people have forgotten. So if we restructure it, and why people are talking about restructuring, it's because the center is already very strong and too much money. Federalism is about people controlling their resources. Resource control. Decentralization. And when you look at the principle, the concurrent legislative list doesn't even work in Nigeria. Let the federal government only control exclusive lists in the Nigerian constitution, which is defense, currency, not determine what is happening in education. If you look at the education system in Nigeria, it's collapsed. ASU has been on the strike for years. APC is not doing anything, yet we have people who claim that they are APC. Look at what is happening in the National Assembly, a rubber stamped. We are now dependent to China, a new emerging colonialist under APC. So if we can restructure that, then based on 6 geopolitical zones, let the South manage what they produce and pay tax to the federal government. The same with the Southeast. Awolowo did it. He used cocoa to build a lot of industries and education in the Southwest. Michael Okpara did it in Southeast with palm oil produce. And it was where that money came to build University of Nigeria and Nsukka and some of the other edifices in the Southeast. But because some of these politicians will not want that to happen, how can 85% of oil rings in Nigeria is owned by the North? They will not. Somebody said you invite the North to come here to speak. It's like a child. His father told, this land belongs to you, don't give it up. Nobody wants to preside over the liquidation of a Commonwealth. Most Northerners don't want to preside, even the intellectual ones. Both my PhD and my master's, I went there, I've studied them, most of my work is in the North. They will be sounding the same thing. How many people have criticized Buhari of monopolizing the whole security apparatus in Nigeria? It's never done. And you want a new Nigerian. How do you get a new Nigerian? Where one section of the country is entirely removed from his own kind of arithmetic of 97.5%. Look at the recent election in America. The governor-elect, Biden, said, I am not for Democrats. Thank you, you are elected. You are there. But I'm for the whole America. Some section in APC are applauding him that what he's doing against the South, it is right. How do you move forward? Where you have police, navy, everything in one section, and nobody is talking.
Yeah.
My thanks goes to Afana Ferrer, who has stood to speak against the injustice that is happening in Nigeria.
Okay. So I'm just gonna ask, could Mr. Jimmy Cole actually give his opinions on this matter as well? And then I'm gonna call, I think 3 people want to speak. So I'm gonna call those 3 people to speak and then we'll close up. But I'm pretty sure we're going to have a part 2 of this because this has been very, very interesting so far. So where do you see the future of, I guess, how do we move on politically, Mr. Cole, in your opinion, as a country?
Yeah, how do we move on? That's a multi-dollar question. Because when we look at what is politics in Nigeria, is different from what is politics in many parts of the world. Though there shouldn't have been such. Let's say we blame the colonialists for some of the anomalies of the 60s and up to 66, 70. But by now, we should have been more gentlemanly and more civilized, politically, served to be able to start, creating what should work for us. But unfortunately, there are some issues that are rather naughty and difficult to see and could not even be defended in the law court that can make our being a genuine nation or a country that has its ideological philosophy intact. At best, when we look at PDP as a political party, I'll call them a mercantile capitalist. There was nothing capitalist about PDP, if I may say. If I look at APC, I don't see socialism in them because there are lots of socialism is socialism and what is the other one is about the control of means of production. A capitalist society, the means of production is privately owned. But where government is pumping its money and is using the money they should use to take care of people in creating jobs and manufacturing and what have you, and the whole thing is swallowed. For example, Okoboko paper mills, the paper mills in Iwope, iron and mill industry, Alaja, all these are projects from the 70s, and up to tomorrow, they are moribund, or they are not making any headway. Now, what are the basic underlying disease that is cancerous in the life of in the political life of Nigeria and its political parties? One thing, there is ideological bankruptcy, like everybody has said. there's no society, at least in the modern parlance, that will not have ideology. And it must be a principled, ironclad ideology. You can't leave APC and just dump yourself into PDP. That shouldn't happen, because ideologically you'll be naked, because the way you think will be different. The capitalists want to invest and they always think of profit. We can see that in Britain. Every time there's change of government between Labour and the new party there now, you see the difference immediately. One will be taking money, one will be giving money. That's how it has always been from 1918, whatever, and until 1947 when they started all the welfare state in the United Kingdom. But in Nigeria, you will not, even when military takes over, before you know it, they become terribly corrupt, like the rest. So I think that there's something really, really wrong. And I may sound crude here. The issue of godfatherism, the issue of voodooism, because they use lots of voodoo. Well, when you are using voodoo, you are not using your brain. They call Satanists into the system, and there's a blood covenant among the people there. So the allegiance of average politician is to the Satan. It's not to the man, to the human being that they are ruling, you see. And you can't tell them not to, because they won't trust each other. There's money to be shared, Go into the civil service. When you go, if you want to transform the whole of Nigeria today, let's start from civil service. Let's put permanent secretary in jail if they have stolen. Because it's very easy to trace. When we put money somewhere to execute some projects, and the project is not done, then we go back to the ministry that allocated the funding, and we ask them, what have you done? Then we pick the permanent secretary, and the permanent secretary will tell us how you spend the money. So when there is responsible people in place, and we start putting a square peg in, if there's a square hole, then that's the right thing. Not a square peg in a round hole. It won't work. The issue of voodooism, I don't know how we can exempt it. People sacrifice human beings. They sacrifice, they use blood to build themselves and have relationships. And when this is the case, they are not saying what me and you is saying. They are afraid of death, they are afraid of attack, and they think, and the person that makes them do all that is doing it because they have vested interest. The interest is not for the public. It is for their pocket. Some people own the whole estate. How many of it are we taking away? How many of it do we need when we die? So what I'm saying is that, like Dr. mentioned earlier, we have in any governance, and especially the Nigerian one, we have exclusive list, we have concurrent list, and we have residual list, right? This is so muddled up. Why? Because of corruption. And if all these things are working, there might be bit of control. There might be checks and balances, because all those are built into the Constitution. The Constitution needs to be revisited.
Yeah.
There must be restructuring of sorts. I don't think breaking to pieces, in as much as my heart goes out, we all suffer it. Because let me tell you something here. When people say, let the Biafra go, let the Odua go, when you look at the oppressors, those who are oppressing Nigeria, they are Hausas, they are Igbos, and they are Yorubas. They are not your friends, they don't know you. They are at the top, and they're like family. They are so fit together. So it is not about balkanizing the nation Nigeria, because the population and affinity, cultural affinity, the food, the music is a plus on its own. Why do we want to break it to pieces? From agricultural point of view, go to the Igbo land, you see the best of yams. You see all sorts of things they've done, because I've been everywhere in Nigeria. Go to the north, you see tomatoes, you see onion, you see everything. In Yoruba land, there are things with cassava and what have you. Cocoa we have. So when we bring all this together genuinely, it should be of benefit to us. But the fact that they balkanize or we cut ourselves to pieces does not mean we will be happy. Look, I will redirect our attention to the last riot. In the whole of 36 states we have, all of the governors built themselves these big warehouses and stored palliative from the poor people that is meant for the poor people, and all of them stored it. To do what? They want to sell it, they want to give it to their own, and I can't answer for them. But there's a big issue of corruption there. So that's to tell us it has nothing to do with any tribe. Igbo governors still oppress the Igbos. Niger Delta still oppress Niger Delta people. The Yorubas still oppress Yorubas. Even Yoruba Obas oppress the Yorubas. Okay, go for one. We saw all the money in his coffin. The coffin is stole away from him. You know, there was so much money in it. What is that money meant for? Maybe he's supposed to give it to the poor in his Aleko, and he didn't do that. So most of the time, it has to do with the mental state. I think there is an issue that we need to be treating some mental, the psychiatric mental state of average politicians in Nigeria, because they just want to steal. You know, I can say it's a kind of kleptomania potentials. They just steal so much that it becomes ridiculous. You know, they steal, and we saw 900 million naira being stolen, and it got rotten. You know, who does that? What do you need that?
I'm gonna stop you there. Thank you so much for your contribution. We have a lot of people who would like to speak, but I'm just going to forward the call to Betsy. So Betsy, if you can unmute your mic, you've had your hand up for a while, and the floor is open to you. I'm gonna give you a time of 3 minutes, if that's okay, just in the interest of time. There are 2 other people who are going to speak after the 3 other people who are going to speak after this. Everybody will have 3 minutes, and then we'll end. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. It's been amazing listening to all the contribution, and thank you, Mr. Kole, Wale, Jim Cole, like all of you generally. You guys have really brought our attention to a few things that we don't really have much details on. But what I wanted to contribute, number one, I wanted to start with the fact, Mr. Kolawole, you were all praises of Bola Tinubu. I just wanted to plead to you to say, look, this is not time for sentiment or holding on to one or two few goods that have been done in the past. This is a point looking at it like Mr. Jim just pointed out, to say, how can anyone make praises of someone like Tinubu when he practically is richer than West Africa, or however rich everyone is saying it is. But in Lagos, he practically owns almost all the property in Lagos. I wouldn't want that to distract me, but I just wanted to say that, to say, look, it's high time we start hitting the nails, on the head, and not start trying to soft talk and all that. Tinubu, I will say in my own words, is a terrible leader. He has not done anything much for us than embezzle for himself. It's clearly written everywhere, and it shows. He has influenced politics negatively. He made us all come out and voted for Buhari, joined APC to vote for Buhari because we trusted him. He took our trust for granted and manipulated the system in favor for him to own half of Lagos. Now, the contribution I have to make here is about saying reforming Nigeria. I think one of the places that it starts from is from the judiciary. We do not have a judiciary system. The reason why no one is being held accountable is because our judiciary system sucks. Who is going to hold you accountable? Look at the army and the issue of what happened at NSAS. Every day, everyone is coming up with a new story because of where they said we should go to the court. If we go to the court, who is the judge? The other day, there was a picture of the Yola court, and it was in shambles. What the hell? How can a judge sitting in that court judge a politician who flies business class or private jet? How? You know, so the biggest problem we have here is our judiciary system. As long as we are not being able to hold people accountable, there is nothing achievable in reconstructing our institution or anything at all. Schools, like we said, education is a dead issue in Nigeria. You talk to graduates, they sound like illiterates. We all know that. And when we've been to university, I personally went to Delta State University, Abraka, and I know how much we struggled and how much we had to pay. In fact, I cannot tell you that anything I learned today or anything I'm using today was from the university. It was things that I had to learn, experience while walking, while meeting other people, researching, reading. None of what I learned in school is useful to me today because I don't think I can remember a lot of what I learned. If I learned a lot apart from strike and a lot of things that were happening, prolonging 4 years course to 6 to 7 years and all that. So I think that what we need to really, really work on is our judiciary system. And as long as people are not being held accountable, there is nothing, absolutely nothing we can achieve. New party, old party, police, wherever, you will need accountability. And the only system that can hold people accountable is the judiciary system. And we don't have one in Nigeria, as we all know. Thank you very much. I think I will stop there because of the time. I did have a lot of things to chip in, but I really wanted to hammer on the judiciary system, and I hope we all can start looking into it.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was a wonderful point that you made. In Nigeria, I know I'm currently doing my dissertation, and I'm focusing on, I guess, the social media act that wants to be enacted in Nigeria. And that whole thing of judicial independence is non-existent in Nigeria. There is no separation of powers in the government. You know, like in Ireland, there's the legislature, the executive, and then the judiciary, and they all have separate arms under the constitution. Whereas in Nigeria, that is not the case. So that is a very, very valid point that you brought up. Thank you so much for your
contribution.
Your contribution. Thank you. So I'd like to bring Oluwaseun up to speak. You can unmute your mic and you have the floor. 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. I'd like to say thank you so much to all the speakers today. I've learned so much. I have no idea about Nigerian politics, how it works on a practical level. So I've learned so much about, on a basic level, foundational level, and I really appreciate that. I think one of the things that has really stood out to me is the issue of different ethnicities. What is the reason? How can there be so many people who are in positions of power who don't see or don't desire to have a vision, to have a goal, or to implement practical steps to actually improve the country? Because it shouldn't matter the political party that you are in. Surely, no matter the kind of inside arguments or inside troubles that are taking place, surely progress should actually be at the forefront, should be the most important aspect of all actions that are taken. What has gone so wrong that this has just happened, this has just fallen by the wayside and everything is it's just been accepted? How can it now? Earlier on, Mr. Saidu said that, he hopes that the youth get involved. For example, Mr. Saidu said he's the chairman of his party in the UK. How can you make that call to people who are outside of the party? You said, you need to be inside of the party to make a difference. You currently know all the issues that are being faced. Where is the accountability? Why is there not anybody taking responsibility? Why is nobody willing to step up to the plate and do what needs to be done, so that we're talking about the same issues? Where is the drive to actually address these issues? This is open to anybody, to any of the speakers, but I just find it absurd that there's this jumping of parties, there's a lack of ideology. Like, what is going on? To me, it sounds like, what can actually be changed? Can anything really be changed? I'm sitting here in the UK. What can I do? What can I do on a practical level or what can be done on a practical level to actually make these changes that are so desperately needed?
Okay, so I think probably the best way to go about that is just to give the 3 guest speakers 1 minute to answer that question. So I'll start with you, Dr. Akisoma. I keep saying your name wrong. I'm so sorry. I'm going to call you Dr. Uche because I know how to say Uche properly. Oh, it's on mute. Thanks.
Thank you, Baba Lola. Am I right? Yeah. You see, I don't want to dampen your spirit. Maybe I read once somebody said I was being one-sided without talking about Jonathan, and I don't like. Jimmy Cole said, you know, you don't talk about the past, though it's an imperative for the present, because every social phenomenon is socially constructed. Yes, we wouldn't talk about Jonathan because it was a shamble government and we were promised that there will be a new Nigeria. That's why we are talking about the present government.
Oh.
And that is why everybody supported that new Nigeria, but we didn't see anything.
Oh.
So talking about Jonathan, because if you're a surgeon and you said, look, I can handle this operation, we trust you and give you the patient. At the end, you kill the patient. We are not going to talk about the previous surgeon who messed up. It's the present surgeon. So the problem, my dear, is that ethnicity, as we are saying, because Nigeria, whether anybody wants to understand it or whether anybody likes it or not, there is nothing you can do to bring that cohesion in Nigerian politics. It's already fragmented. And because it's already fragmented, just from the 1960s to today, we keep on hearing as soon as possible. That's what the politicians will tell you.
Mm-hmm.
So why not us try? I'm always saying that presidential system of government is not the best for Nigeria because there's no robust debate, just like we see in the parliamentary system in Britain. So that you can hold somebody accountable. If a speaker here said judiciary, of course, you can't talk about reforming a judiciary without talking about the leader.
Yeah.
Because Nigeria, everything flows from the up to down. You saw how a Chief Justice of Federation was removed by the leader and put the man of his own.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I'm just going to stop you there so that we can get the opinion of Mr. Cole just on what Oluwaseun. I'm so bad at pronouncing names. I'm so sorry.
It doesn't matter, don't worry.
Okay, so Mr. Jimmy Cole, can we get your response? So as quick as possible.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, like a good doctor said, I wouldn't want to dampen our spirit. But in as much as we can talk of social scientific approach to political situations, the issue of Nigeria is sometimes beyond that. The negative spiritualism, if I may use that. So you can't just say because I have PhD, I have lots of money from UK or from America, and you want to go and partake in Nigerian politics. You have to be on the ground. And being on the ground, you have to be taken to your Oba, the king of your town. And from the Oba, there are lots of so-called important people you have to meet, and everybody come with that conditionality. And if you are a greedy type, most of the time it's difficult to go back. You just carry on. until you are in it. And when you are in it, you recoup your money, like Mr. Saidu said earlier. You want to recoup your money, and when they start threatening you, you too, you start going out to do your own voodoo. So it's a mess. It's a complete mess. But it doesn't mean, because you can only fool some people all of the time, you cannot fool all of the people all of the time. I think at the stage, something will have to give. And what will give is part of it is what we saw the last few weeks back. And I think it's not finished. Something is going to happen. I'm not predicting, I'm not a prophet of doom, but politically speaking, you can oppress, even if you are pursuing a snake at a time, the snake will come back and say, what do you want to do? So we turn all our youth, all our children to prostitutes in Nigeria. We turn the boys into area boys, and you see graduates of masters and PhD, no job for the past 10, 6, 7 years. Even I have some of my mates who graduated over 30 years ago and no job, you know? So what are we talking about? These people are not ready to use the money where they're supposed to use it. All the money is stored away in United Kingdom and in Bahamas, and Nigerians are going hungry. How can we take that money from them? And again, the masses of Nigeria even give them support. And that's the worst aspect of this situation. You know, they say baba to those who are oppressing them. How can somebody want to kill you? Because anybody that doesn't allow you to eat is already killed you psychologically. To be your potential enemy. But instead of that, we prostrate for them, we praise worship them, and we give them accolades. So may the good Lord help us. If there's anything you need to do, maybe set a political party, and not only political party we need, there's what we call in a parliament, they are the opinion group. You know, they form a group, very strong group, and they push for agendas.
Like an advisory commission. Yeah, like an advisory commission. Yeah, like just a group of people who
it's even
advise
beyond
government,
that. There's a name for it and it's recognized.
Okay.
You know, you may not be a political party, but you can be opinion leaders. You pump money into it. Abiola did it in America before. There were no black people in the parliament in America. Abiola went there and he was giving some millions of dollars to some group of people, the whitewash image of those they want to use, and they put them there to change American politics.
Yeah.
So you can do something like that.
Yeah, so to lobby, but okay, so I'm gonna get Mr. Sadhu's opinion on it, and then we're going to hear from our last person in the crowd who wants to speak. So Mr. Sadhu, could you give us like a brief 1-minute opinion on what was said?
Yeah, thank you very much, Rachel. What Oluwaseun was saying, Babalola was saying, basically was, how do you take responsibility? How can people like yourself in diaspora help? And what can you guys do? Can you hear me? Yeah, someone is interfering. So basically, what I want to do, the way I want to look at this is that, you see, there's a difference between patriotism and nationalism. If nationalism is what is causing problem in Nigeria, nationalism will make you to be tribalistic if you carry it too far above patriotism. And that's what's the main problem in Nigeria. So many of you guys that are in diaspora, you have nationalism, identification to your wherever you come from, Yoruba, Igbo, whatever. That's fine. But the problem is when that kind, you allow that to becloud your judgments, and you put nationalism above patriotism. That is where the problem is. In this country, you see Scottish, you see Irish, and all the rest of them, but they don't allow that. They don't put it above their patriotism. The same thing in America. So I think from what you just said, I'm not going to waste your time because we've spent so much time. So I'm going to just go talk about the fact that judiciary is not, you cannot isolate judiciary. As I said, the problem is with weak institution. When you blame the judiciary, how about the police? You have to take the process of taking a case from the beginning to the court has to go through a process. Those processes are fraudulent, are full of frauds before it gets even to the judiciary. That is where the problem is. And that's why I said the problem is weak institution. We need to address that. So regarding you wanting to be how can you be relevant at home or pay your own contribution to the development of what is happening at home? I will advise you to get more involved in groups like this, in meetings like this, to educate yourself, to become more aware of things that are happening at home and what you can do. And also, secondly, you need to identify yourself with, I will encourage you guys to decide, as I said earlier on, someone also said it, among one of the speakers, what you can also do is to identify with maybe the human rights group in Nigeria and channel your resources towards them in order to defend the defenseless, and look at political organizations in Nigeria that you can be part of and be a voice and give them a voice to actually influence things in Nigeria. Thank you.
Thanks. So thank you so much for your response. So there's a WhatsApp group chat that we have all organized. So basically the people who have organized this, we have a WhatsApp group chat. We will be having more upcoming meetings and whatnot. So if you want to join, please, it's in the chat. So in the Zoom chat comments, there's a link and you just have to click it and you can join the group chat. So I'm just going to call on Dean to unmute his mic and speak. And then after that, then we will just start closing. Dean, if you're there, can you unmute your mic? Yeah, perfect.
Okay, hello everyone.
Hi.
Well, I'd say good morning here because I'm in Malaysia and it's 4 a.m. and I'd just like to say a little bit before I go to bed. Yeah, I know it's quite crazy, but it's been an interesting conversation. I've just been listening to all the points, quite a lot of brilliant submissions. So I'll just try to take, say, about 2 to 3 minutes to make 4 points that I like to bring to light. We've heard a lot. The first point is on politics itself. We've heard a lot about the past of Nigerian politics, the founding processes and all of that. But one thing that I would like to draw our attention to, just generally speaking, is that old ways of thinking can't change new problems that we have. And we can't look for solutions thinking the same ways or thinking in the same ways that we did when we created the problems. So this whole idea of politics is tribal, politics is regional, politics is this, politics is that. Yes, it exists, but we have to understand that this exists as a part of Nigeria's past. A lot of the youth today don't see themselves as from one tribe or the other. A lot of the youth today see themselves as belonging to state. They're from this state or from that state. Yes, they may be from the tribe, but what is predominant in their identity is ethnocentric nationalism, meaning they recognize that they are Nigerians, but they also have some kind of respect for whatever ethnicity they come from. But that does not mean that they put their ethnicity above being Nigerian. I think a lot of the youth today put just simply being Nigerian, plain and simple, above every other bit of identity that they have. So that's one thing. Second thing that I'd like to point out is in the space race between the United States and Russia or China or Japan or whatever other countries were involved in that, there was something very unique that came out of that, and it was resource management. They tasked themselves with, racing to space to see how they could achieve that. And that task brought about, several problems and different new ways to think about these problems. One of these problems that lasted up until today is, how do we create an ecosystem that's able to support life in a vacuum in space? And out of the research that came as a result of answering that question was appropriate resource management for countries or regions on Earth here. Because if you need a cup of water in space, how do you manage that? If you need air in space, how do you manage it? If you need food, medicine, all of these things. They applied, many countries apply this knowledge in their politics, they apply in their policies or whatever. Nigeria wasn't a part of that space race, so we haven't forced ourselves to begin to answer those type of questions, or even to ask those type of questions. How do we manage resources? And a sign of the EndSARS protest right now is that the one resource that bad politics has mismanaged is youth. It's a tragedy that in politics today, youth is not even seen as a resource. The fact that a person can dedicate their time, their life of over 30 or 40 years of their existence to developing a nation is not seen as a resource. So when it comes to party politics and ideologies, I think a lot of the youth today, what they really want to see are basic things like justice, equal opportunity, and not just equal opportunity for people all across the board, but equal opportunity that brings about national development. We just want to be able to have basic development all across the country that makes it safe and possible for us to empower ourselves to live a decent life and to give back to the society. I think this is the foundation, this must be the foundation of any party politics or any party's foundation or whatever. If we're not able to get out of this hole that we are in right now, I think it'll absolutely make sense for parties to begin to ideologies. It's that should be step 2. Step 1 should be, how do we just bring everybody up to a level of education and decent living that they're able to, have food in their bellies, sleep well, feel safe, and then tackle more serious problems. You can't start talking about party ideology when, people are, I think it was Katsina State a few days ago that I saw, he gave a donkey as economic empowerment to people in his state. How do you, what kind of empowerment is that? What is a donkey gonna do for you in 2020? It makes absolutely no sense. So I think there are basic things that everybody in this EndSARS movement is just trying to communicate to the government. And that is that we're not looking for an American type right versus left complicated party. We're looking for a party that's just going to say, let's move Nigeria forward. Let's have a stable economy, a stable stock exchange, food for everyone, education or access to education for everyone, stable electricity, for God's sakes. Every country has done it. And then we need to empower the people, our people that are within the age of 21 to be able to take care of big questions, massive tasks for themselves. Look at Silicon Valley. A lot of the people that are making trends in Silicon Valley are not in their 40s, they're not in their 50s, they're not even in their 30s, they're in their 20s. And if you walk into Silicon Valley in your 30s, they call you a latecomer. You're late to the party. What were you doing in your 20s that you didn't make it here? You know? So the last thing I'll just try to say is that the people in politics today, we kind of look at them as if they're not educated. But to be honest, I believe that they are. They're actually some of the brilliant minds we have in the country, but they're educated without conscience or character. They don't have conscience for doing the right thing, and they don't have character for feeling guilty after embezzling, which is why they can embezzle and do all the things they do behind closed doors and come out on national television and lie. It's become so common these days. But if you look at some of the things that, I think I started paying attention to politics in detail when Obasanjo was in power and he started talking about privatization. And if you look at some of the things that he was talking about way back then, you can tell that this is a very intelligent person. He knows a little bit about what he's saying. He knows the national implications. But somewhere down the line, he starts talking, after talking about privatization, he comes up with Owando and a few other, private companies. And then it just makes you question, what is all of this development for if only a few people in the country get to benefit from it? It makes no sense. So I think in conclusion, I'll just say that I think any party that is to arise from whatever this flame is right now, I think it would be very successful if it has one simple goal or one simple task or one simple ideology, which is to provide basic, stable developmental infrastructure for all citizens of Nigeria across the board. No segregation, no ethnicity, nothing. We need to get the poorest man in the border of Kano State or Katsina State and the poorest man in the border of, I'm not sure what's the southernmost city in the south, but the Bendel region. We need to get everybody across the board, northeast, southwest, everyone, up to a particular level of access to developmental infrastructure, so that they can begin to empower themselves. They can begin to think for themselves. They can take some of the load off of the government, and then the government can begin to, think about stage two. What ideologies do we want our country to have? I think by the time we get to a place where everybody can eat well, sleep well, feel safe, the country itself will determine what party ideologies it wants to see, what direction it wants to take in the future. But right now we don't have basic amenities, and we're talking about, stage two of the whole problem. Let's not skip a step. So I think if we take things, just as raw and as ordinary as they are, it'll make a lot more sense. And I really just would like to leave this as my submission. If I were ever going to be a part of a political party, I don't like the bureaucratic or trying to look good, and we have all these policies and we look like these Western political parties. I don't think Nigeria needs anything Western anymore. We've had too much Western influence. We're trying to deal with the ones that we've got. So I think any party that can come up with just an ideology for basic development would be the sort of party that everybody would rally around. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dean, for that contribution. I think the only danger, in my opinion, would be the only danger with that being, if someone stands for nothing, then what will they fall for? So, after they've provided all these basic basic needs that Nigerian people do need, after they've gained the trust of the people, what next? Do you get what I mean?
So that's right. So that's the thing. It's not that you're standing for nothing. What's happening here is that everyone has ethnicities and religion and all their personal compass, like their personal beliefs. So we don't need a political party to tell us what to think about ourselves. We already know what we want as people. We only need a political party that's honest enough to bring the country up to a point where we are able to educate ourselves properly enough to make the best choices that are in our own interest. Because right now, if we begin to choose what ideologies we want, when we are not very much educated, remember, we're still running a democracy. The dumbest people can run the country. You can get 60% or 59 or 51% of the most unintelligent people, and they could vote for the wrong policy, and that could drag 49% of the intelligent people down the drain with them. So I'm not saying we need or we don't need to stand for anything. I'm saying what we're standing for, what we have, culture and religion and ethnicity, and my tribe versus your tribe, all of that is fine for now. But let's have some roads, let's have electricity, let's have clean water, let's have food, let's have internet. And then when we can eat and sleep and think in freedom, we can now start deciding, do we want Nigeria to be the country that leads the space race? Or do we want Nigeria to be the country that solves global warming? These are the kind of things we need to start looking at stage 2, not now. We can't even stand on our 2 feet. Our leaders are running around the world borrowing money and begging for loans. And then here we're talking about, coming up with some kind of ideology for our party. I don't think that is an absolute necessity at the moment. But I do see your point that we do need to have some sort of ground. And I think once we're able to solve basic problems, we can then introduce that later on.
Okay, cool. Thank you for your contribution. I'd actually like to see what the panel thinks about what was said. So I think what we'll do is we'll give each panelist 2 minutes, and then after that, the event will be over. And then we'll discuss at a later date. Hopefully we can actually continue on this, because I don't know about you guys, but I found it very, very, very interesting. Yeah, so we can start. Dr. Uche, could you start off?
Oh, thank you very much, Chichi. And I know the last speaker said very eloquently. And it's Nigerians are known for their rhetorics and good eloquency. But sometimes you can have electricity, you can have light, you can have this or that without a good leadership. It's a good leadership, good governance. If these structures are not there, there's no way you can have them. And that is why today in Nigeria, there is no light. Ideology is important, and it's very important. Yes, we may not borrow the Western world, but democracy has always been a Western system of government. If you want to go back to our traditional way of thinking, then it's not going to work in these modern days. So I will conclude that Nigeria needs restructuring, and there should be national sovereign conference where all the whole ethnic groups will come together and chart a way forward for Nigeria. And if we are to stay as a Nigerian good enough, there is no way to say that there is a clause, don't say this or don't say that. If we want to insert a self-determination in Nigerian constitution, it is a right. It is inserted in Nigerian in a United Nations Charter. It's also in the OAU Charter. Why wouldn't it be in Nigeria? After all, like the first, I listened to one of the speakers said, it was a marriage of inconvenience. Lord Lugard did not consult anybody. And once nobody was consulted, Nigeria will continue to behave that there is nothing at stake.
Yeah.
So the best way is National Sovereign Conference, whether we were going to be or we are not going to be, and self-determination. If the people are not, if you are not happy about a marriage, you are not forced to belong to a marriage in the 21st century. So nobody has to say, why will you want, you must stay. No. If we want to be fair to ourselves, as a modern generation, we have to campaign for that. If the people want to go, let them go. If anybody wants to be a federal system, let us not discuss it. At the end of the whole day, we will come up before we can talk about whether to have a water in our house or food on the table. Because at the end of the whole day, you can give me a food, but I'm not happy. Because as the Nigerians stand today, I still believe in what Awolowo said. It's a mere geographical entity. Until it is defined, then we will not have a people's constitution, because the present constitution cannot work. It was drafted by the military for their own selfish interest. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That was a perfect ending to what you just said. So, Mr. Cole, we're going to go on to you, and then we're going to go on to Mr. Sadu.
Yes, what can I say? I can only tell us that we've already set, because many eyes are opened. Many people that were insulated to politics already know more. Even if you call Nigeria now, talk to so-called illiterate people, they will tell you things that you'll be wondering. So we are at a level of awareness at this level. But how do we get out of this quagmire? Because I think it's an entrapment. But in as much as I love a solution, I'll prefer a situation where we can sit down, like the doctor said, and look at the organs of government and restructure it perfectly well. And we need to write rights of Nigerians into the constitution, and the organs need to be insulated against each other. There must not be fusion. You know, how can the judiciary or a judge or head of a court be taken and sacked just like that? Normally, the constitution used to take care of that. Their salary must not come from the state salary, it comes from extra, something outside of the government. They call it a special money. You know, it's not something from federation account, so that they could perform their duties accordingly. The executive must execute what the legislation came out with. So when all this, when there's proper separation of power, there will be reasonability and there will be accountability, and people will be able to call people to order. But because of corruption and all other messy things that is even difficult to mention here, we know them, but sometimes it doesn't go through our mouth because it's messy and it's sad. So, youth, there are lots of jobs in your hand, and yeah.
Thank you. And Mr. Sadu, we're gonna let you speak, and then we'll close things up.
Okay, thank you very much, the moderator. And once again, I just want to thank the organizer of this meeting, and I hope it continues like this to serve as a meeting point to disseminate information and share ideas, because information, knowledge is power, as you know. So we need to organize this more. I would like to encourage that. So from my point of view, I think, as I said, what I would like us to take home from this meeting is basically the issue that the problem that we have in Nigeria is basically caused by weak institutions. So when you talk about weak judiciary, corruption, all those ones are just secondary. They are just secondary. If we can look at it, at what we have as weak institutions and how did we come about these weak institutions? It never used to be like this. Even in the colonial days, there were strong institutions, and people would say that they got justice there. They got justice, everything worked well. When I was growing up, there was electricity. There was even public tap water. But this is what you have. You have boreholes because of why do we have that? Because we have wrong people. So what we need to do and take home is for us to realize that the problem we have in Nigeria is basically caused by weak leadership and weak institution. Once we get leadership right, we will get strong institutions. And once we get strong institutions, then this corruption that is everywhere will more or less even disappear. Because look at the time Murtala Muhammad, people that remember Murtala Muhammad, when he came in, all he tried to do was to strengthen institutions. You mess up and you go to court and you pay for it, So, and when Idiagma came as well, that's a good example of leadership. So once we have the leadership right in Nigeria, everything, okay, why is it that when we come over here, Nigerians, when they come over here, they perform, they do everything, they don't see them as community pride, with the exception of very few that, spoil it for the rest of them. We have them excelling in various places, in medicine, in academics, and all the rest of them. Why? Because they have institutions here that make them to excel. Whereas in Nigeria, we don't have it. I was reading about something where I was nearly crying just about 30 minutes to the time we came for this meeting. We have in Nigeria people that had their they had their masters, and they were telling harrowing experience of how lecturers were asking them to give this, even cooking rice, coolers of rice when they were defending their dissertation, buying all sorts of things that lecturers asking to sleep with them. So what I'm saying basically is that once we have the leadership right, we get the leadership right, we will get the institutions stronger, and most of these problems will disappear. So I want to enjoy each and every one of us to look into how can we get the right leaders in the right position. Some of the speakers have said this, positive comments have been made. I think that should be our focus. Once we get the leadership right, I think the problem will disappear. We can do it. As one of the speakers said, there is a kind of, the rate of awareness of people has really, really increased. If you look at 10 years ago, 15 years ago, because of technology and all the rest of them, even the market women, they know what is going on. But because of poverty, they are looking for a kind of leadership that will mobilize them, and so that their vote will count. And this is where you guys come in. Go and brainstorm and come out with how can you guys do it? Because it's your future, and we cannot allow this kind of political system to continue. It doesn't favor us, my generation. It doesn't favor you. And if you guys don't take the bull by the horn now and say enough is enough, Otoge, and get involved more politically in Nigeria and here. And I want to commend you guys. The last answer, mobilization in terms of money, in terms of information that actually were put into that struggle. The struggle should not die, but you should find a way to make it continue by consider so many things, forming a political party, forming a pressure group that you guys will be sponsoring to make it viable without being violent, without being unnecessarily confrontational with the government. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I'd like to thank our panelists. Thank you so much for coming on and just sacrificing your time, and in fact, investing your time by discussing the political climate in Nigeria and helping enrich us diasporans who are not really as well equipped, and giving us, certain different views, I guess, on matters and different spins to things. So thank you so much. And on behalf of everybody in this chat, I'd like to say thank you. Also, I'd like to say thank you to everybody who's come here. If you're not already part of the group chat that we have on WhatsApp, please go and join. There's a link on the Zoom chat, I think. If Isaac, if you could just resend that link in, that would be great. So yeah, just join that group chat, and then we're going to have another event soon, and then we're going to continue discussions over WhatsApp. So if you do have an opinion you'd like to share, please do not be afraid to share it on the WhatsApp group. And thank you for everybody who did give their input as well in the crowd. So we're gonna end things there. So thank you very, very much to everybody for coming. And I hope you guys have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye.